Dumb fun.
Hey dummies, it's Andy. I had what I would describe as some user error with my microphone. So like the first 3.5 minutes of my audio are taken from the Zoom. It gets better after 3.5 minutes, so just hang in there and enjoy our episode on Dear Evan Hansen, what's it like in New York City?
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Musical the Movie the Podcast, Musical the Movie the Podcast, Musical the Movie the Podcast with Andy and Steph.
Whoa, Steph, here we are, episode 4. Can you believe it? I'm Andy.
Hi, I'm Steph.
Well, our movie this week, the listener knows, they saw it on the title of the podcast, but we watched a little movie called Dear Evan Hansen. Steph, you familiar?
I am familiar. I think, why don't you go first? What's your relationship with Dear Evan Hansen?
So Ben Platt, I know from the Pitch Perfect saga.
Ugh.
Yeah, the Pitch Perfect movies, where he's the little kid who does magic, and he's very charming in that. And then Dear Evan Hansen, the movie came out in 2021. Of course, you and I were quarantining, and I said to you, like, is this something that we need to go see? Do we like Dear Evan Hansen? And you told me in no uncertain terms, no, we don't like Dear Evan Hansen because it took the Tony away from Natasha and the Great Comet.
Yeah, that's accurate. We're still angry on behalf of beautiful darling Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. And I will just never get over that this play stole the Tony from that perfect moment.
So that was my full and complete relationship with Dear Evan Hansen. So why don't you take it from there?
I mean, to be honest, it's sort of the same. I mean, I knew of it because I was like keeping abreast of Broadway news. I knew that the orchestrations were being done by Alex Lacamoire, who is Lin-Manuel Miranda's buddy. And so I was like, excited to see his project. I feel like there were a couple songs that just didn't leave. Okay, so here's the thing, and we're going to talk about this, but like, this is a story that is like concerned with deep diving into the feeling of cringe. And so like, for that reason, I think a lot of people related to it. And I didn't consume the story itself, but I did experience a lot of people's cringe reaction to it. And therefore, importantly, I knew someone described the story to me before I like really heard any of the music or saw anything except for like that picture of the cast. And that's plaster cast, not group of people.
Thank you, yes.
In case anyone hasn't seen it.
Yeah, they won Best Ensemble Plaster Cast.
Yeah, they got all the orthopedic surgeons out there.
Yeah.
This is a good moment to say that this story is like deeply concerned with a young boy who dies by suicide. And the cringe of it results from people's wild reactions in that aftermath. And so if that is something that would be hard for you, maybe skip this episode. I don't think that there's going to be like a way around consuming that. So know your boundaries.
This is officially what we call a trigger warning for all you snowflakes out there.
But so I knew the story going in and I was like, I'm sorry, what happens? Like, this is the premise of this
I did not know the story going in, so I just watched this movie mouth agape. I mean, what a wild time at the movies this was. Why don't we bring in our guests? And because there's so many things already that I need to say about this movie, but we need to bring them in.
Yes, please.
As always, we have a guest we have a theater guest and a comedy guest. Anyway, I have a question.
Yeah.
I forgot to start recording. Did anyone else?
Was
it just me?
You call yourself a professional.
I know.
Well, seamlessly and without any edits, why don't we go right into you introducing our guests? You want to start?
Pleasure.
Bring in our first guest.
Yeah, so my guest today is Kerry Dubay. She is an English and theater and dance teacher. We met at the University of Wisconsin when she choreographed a production of Godspell that I directed, and really just like became fast friends because we had like the same, I feel like I talked to you about like, I don't know, Next to Normal or something. And like, you were just like, yeah, I know this weird random play. And then
that's my specialty is weird random plays. Yeah.
I love that.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
My guess is just one of the most outstanding comics in Chicago and in this great country. He's just one of these hot young comics on the scene that you're going to be seeing everywhere pretty soon. He's also has a rich history in the world of theater and on the stage. He's one of my favorite people in the world. It's Beckett Kenny. Hi, Beckett.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm so excited to dive deep on this. I love Ben Platt. He plays Deer in this movie.
Yeah. You can tell from his eyes. He's doing those big deer eyes.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
He
yes.
has the biggest eyes, and no one in this movie knows how to light them.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the problem is that his eyes are kind of I don't want to say sunken in. That sounds rude, but his eyes are a little sunken in, and so it becomes very hard to light his skeleton.
He has a prominent brow, where all of his voice, it's where his vibrato comes from. A lot of people, it happens like in your throat or your mouth, and Ben Platt just vibrates out of his eyebrows.
Mm-hmm. Beckett, what is your relationship with this movie? Did you ever see the play or anything, or listen to the soundtrack?
So, well, I'll just walk you through it. Ben Platt, I saw Pitch Perfect like everybody else and enjoyed the movie and was like, oh, he's charming. And then I saw Book of Mormon on tour, and he was Elder. What's the funny one?
The Josh Gad one.
The Josh Gad. He was Elder Josh Gad, and he's playing Josh Gad in Book of Mormon on tour. And he was amazing. He was so great live, and I was like, oh, that's the guy from Pitch Perfect. So then I watched Pitch Perfect, and so like I kind of was rooting for Ben Platt for like early on. I'm like he's very talented. He was great in Book of Mormon live. He was honestly like very funny. And I was watching his career grow, and I was really excited when Dear Evan Hansen came to Broadway. I was like, oh my gosh, like he's doing amazing, and everyone was talking about how great his performance was. My voice teacher would talk to me about Ben Platt, like him singing, and I was obsessed with that show. And I actually, at one point, they were auditioning for the touring cast, and I did wait in the cold for hours and audition for the touring production of Dear Evan Hansen.
Justice for Beckett Kenny. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and the fact that I did not get it, I actually bombed the audition so bad, though. I bombed it so bad. I 100% bombed the audition. I did not start at the right part of my song, and I retried 7 times, and I couldn't get on key, and I left, and I was like, well, I waited a long time for this. When I do something like that, there's always a part of me that's like, I might get this.
He's kind of in your range a little bit, the Evan Hansen part. I was thinking when I was listening to this, I mean, because anyone who's been in a room with you for 4 seconds has heard you sing, now you have you have a larger range than I think Ben Platt, but you're a little bit it's a little bit in your pocket, I think. Or you could be Jared, I don't care.
He is a very talented vocalist. I used to love Ben Platt deeply, 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 and as things have evolved, my feelings have become more complicated, I think. And this is also one of those things where I wish you hadn't chosen this movie for me, because one, I was excited to talk about a movie musical that I loved.
Right.
But two,
you'll be back. Part of the reason why I had you on do this because we needed to get you on so that we could have you back.
Right. No. But two, the most compelling thing that I'm going to bring to this table today is my complicated feelings about Ben Platt. And you know, how you secretly, I secretly am like, I could work with Ben Platt one day, and that's the psychopathic part of me. That I'm like, I don't want to totally talk shit about Ben Platt, because there's the narcissistic part of me is like, well, I could be working with him soon, but you never, which is
right.
Psycho, cuckoo banana things. But I'm gonna take off the mask and tell my truth about Ben Platt tonight on this podcast.
Wow, that is a teaser if I ever heard one.
Honey.
Kerry, I know that there's a reason that you were specifically, from the minute we talked about this movie, you were the only guest Steph talked about having on this. So do you want to tell us why that is?
I don't know if I should be flattered by that or deeply, deeply scared. But like Beckett, I also have a fairly complicated feelings about Dear Evan Hansen. So I actually saw it on Broadway with Ben Platt. I was on a high school theater trip chaperoning, as a high school theater teacher does. And it was one of the 4 shows we saw over the weekend, and it was by far our kids' favorite, hands down. It connected
What were
so
the other
deeply to
shows?
them. Oh, we saw Glass Menagerie with Sally Field, which
Wow.
for us adults, we were all like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
beyond
All three of
amazing.
us just like gasped
Yes.
a little bit.
We got
That
to
is
meet,
pretty insane.
I know, we got to meet Sally Field.
Was Sally
Yes.
Fields good in that role?
She was phenomenal. And
Phenomenal.
we got to meet her afterwards, and she was like everything you would want Sally Field to be in a person.
No.
She
Wow.
100%
You love to
was.
hear
Like,
it.
just the absolute kindest person. So nice to all the kids. It was great. We actually saw 5 shows because we saw that. We saw Play That Goes Wrong, which was delightful. We saw Dear Evan Hansen in the matinee show, and then we went and saw Miss Saigon that evening. So
Wow.
you can imagine the emotional
That is-
turmoil that our high school
What a
14-year-olds
day.
dealt with throughout that day. We all got to, I mean, half of them fell asleep by intermission of Miss Saigon because they were just so emotionally spent by that point of the day. But
They woke up when that helicopter came, though. Tell
they
you
sure
what.
did. They sure did. And then we also saw Cats.
Whoa.
To which-
What a week.
Oh yes, to which it was kind of one of those like, all right, we have room to go see one more show. What's available to us? All right, Cats will work. Not my favorite show. So I deeply enjoyed your episode on Cats the movie as well. But my kids all, are just like, Mrs. Dubay, are we going to see a dance show? Is this a dance show? I'm like, yes, this is a dance show. Just take it
It
for
is a dance
what it
show.
is. Until the lights went down and the cat eyes started glowing and the cat started crawling on my students, to which they all just started freaking out, tapping me on the shoulder, going, Mrs. Dubay, what the hell is happening? And I had the privilege to turn to them and just go, it's Cats. Enjoy. So Dear Evan Hansen was definitely a highlight for them.
You know what's striking to me about that list is that all of the other things, I guess maybe not Glass Menagerie, but like they're all so far away from kids, and like Dear Evan Hansen is the like what it is to be a high school theater kid. Like that's what that feels like.
Absolutely. So we saw it with original cast, which was amazing. And then I've seen it 2 other times. I saw it in Chicago and I saw it in Cincinnati with my family that live out in Ohio. And then I'm actually going to see it again in December with my English department at school. So
Wow.
if you really want to get some nerdy conversations afterward for like a part 2 of Dear Evan Hansen, you just let me know.
I would love
Yeah,
to
I
hear
was
that.
promised that you were going to wear a Dear Evan Hansen t-shirt
I thought about it. It unfortunately is still packed away in a box somewhere.
from when you saw this movie.
I would also like to go on record at this point and say that I agree that The Great Comet should have won the Tony Award that year.
Thank you.
There it is.
I will go on record with that.
And I will go on record and say I think Ben Platt was 100% deserving of his Tony. I don't know about the show
I
as
do
a
think he
whole,
deserved his
but
Tony.
Ben Platt,
Yeah.
I think that Ben Platt deserved his Tony for acting.
I think, yeah.
I think he was the show.
Yes. And then like, and in so many ways, he is this movie.
yes.
There's nothing fake about his performance.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing fake about this.
No.
No, this is.
You see like his veins popping out at different times. Like it's
You
just.
could see that from, the upper balcony too.
I saw the bootleg of Dear Evan Hansen, the musical with him in it. I've never seen it live. I saw the bootleg.
Those are
I don't know
always
if
so
it's-
great.
Yeah, they just capture
Those
everything.
always, make you feel like you're there.
Obviously, bootlegs are not a replacement for a theatrical experience. Neither are like a filming of a production. I think it's important to say. But I think that if you've been to live theater, you know that like that's better.
It's not the
And
same.
Yeah, those cats
Yeah.
can't crawl on you.
The cats
Exactly.
can't crawl on you,
Yeah.
and that's why everyone hated Cats the movie. If you had Jason Derulo crawling on me,
Give me some of that 3D stuff. They're reaching in.
You better believe I'd start loving Cats the movie.
Let's dig into it. This is our first musical that is written by the duo of Pasek and Paul, who we're going to have to come to terms with because frankly, they're just determined to make themselves a force to be reckoned with in the musical world.
I mean, they're clearly there already.
Yeah, I
Like-
mean, they in fact, these dudes are an Emmy away from an EGOT. Benji Pasek of the duo says that, and that, by the way, they also wrote La La Land, Greatest Showman. But Benji Pasek says that he based this on the story of he based it on something that happened at a school where a kid died and people started pretending that they were friends with him when they really weren't. And I guess something about him made him think that person should be a hero.
What's interesting about this to me is I think this show thematically is so similar to another high school themed show that opened right before, which was Heathers. Because I think
Yes.
like the show almost follows the exact same plot line, and it says very different things about it, but it's like people taking advantage of this idea of a suicide, even though it's wrapped up in a lie. It's like,
and like the forgery and impersonation aspect too.
Yeah. But I think it works so much better as a dark comedy than it does as like
very much.
Yeah, which is why I want to mention early on that there's also a great movie starring Robin Williams, directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, called World's Greatest Dad, which is about are you familiar with this, Kerry?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. His son, played by Daryl Sabera of the Spy Kids saga, his son basically autoerotically asphyxiates and dies, and he makes up that he wrote all these poems and makes him to be a much deeper person than he was, and starts to get all the spoils of that. And again, it's a dark comedy, which is sort of the vein that this story works in. Tone is, I would say, this movie's biggest problem.
Which is interesting that you say that, like, that those work as dark comedies, because the actual stage version of this is much, much funnier.
It would have to be.
There's a lot of humor in it, and there's some critics that talk about how it's more the happy, funny stuff than it is the sad, depressing stuff, which I think is where the movie falls short. I'm curious to explore what this is missing in that translation to screen, and like where they're losing it. Yeah. Well, we can start with the very first number that gets cut.
Yeah.
I think this is a problem in art in general, but especially in movies. I think that like a lot of times we judge movies based on like the idea of like verisimility and like, or like the idea of like how much it is realistic or like real life. And I think this is a problem that I think a lot of theatrical productions could run into as they're getting adapted. Like I have a hard time imagining the Wicked adaptation because I don't know how her flying is going to work not on stage.
Yeah, they'll have to get Jason Derulo out there.
You have to make a big different choice Derulo's there and have Jason Derulo fly in. He just appears suddenly halfway through the movie.
I do want to mention that this play debuts in 2015 in the musical theater capital of the world, Washington, D.C., and Ben Platt is in it in Washington, D.C. Like he's in Pitch Perfect in 2012, and you can tell his career is going great because he's on stage in a musical in 2015 in Washington, D.C. But it appears to be some sort of like star-making vehicle for him. It takes him all the way to the Tony, quite frankly, which this thing's gonna basically sweep the Tonys.
I want to start. Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity to like transition into the just going through the story, and it's specifically because I want to talk about how the opening song that we get is a really good example of how this movie treats the idea of singing your emotions and like what it is to have a song moment. So we open with Evan Hansen, a 17-year-old with anxiety issues and a broken arm from an apparent accident from his summer job as an apprentice forest ranger. And it's just a Word document on a screen. He's writing a letter to himself to psych himself up to not be such a little weirdo on the first day of school. And it's called Waving Through a Window. It is, as noted, not the way that the stage show opens, which I believe is like a big ensemble number where you kind of like meet all of the different players.
It starts in his room and he's talking to a mirror, but then by the end of it, he's in the high school gym and everything's happening around him and he's singing and no one's acknowledging him at all.
I don't know. I feel like for people that it's been a long time since they've been in the halls of a high school, this seems like very exaggerated, or this kind of kid seems a little much, this doesn't really happen. But like, I've had Evan Hansens in my class all the time. We see this kid in the hallway all the time.
He always has a cast.
He always has a cast. Yeah. He's always really into forests and just wants to talk to me about trees. But as teachers, we always hear these horror stories, and because of that, they always kind of prep us for things to watch out for, and they're always like, watch for that kid that is the first one in your class and the last one to leave, because it means that they are uncomfortable in the hallways. And so seeing him walk through those halls and literally be the center of attention, but no one is paying attention to him, and then there's the complete reverse of that later on where people are starting to wave to him.
And we get like those same shots, but yeah.
There's two things in the opening of the stage show that I feel, again, I don't know, like Beck was saying, I don't know how these would necessarily have translated to the film space, but I feel like we do lose a little of that connection because they are cut out. So part of it is just the set design in general. The set design, when you walk into the theater, are these big rectangular floor to ceiling screens showing social media, and it's showing social media feeds and text messages. And it's then later that we understand that a lot of Evan's social anxiety is coming from this hyperconnectivity of the digital media age, and that he does not feel a part of it. So I feel like with losing some of those social media aspects in the very, very beginning, before we even meet Evan, we lose a little bit of that deeper understanding. And then the other part of this is, so the show opens with the song Anybody Have a Map, which is sung by the two moms. And because we don't have that immediate connection to the adults in this and to their reactions, it's so hyper focused on the teenagers. But it's this story of these two moms who are feeling the same emotions and are going through the same thing, where they are just trying their absolute best. They don't know what to do or how to do it best. They're just making their daily lives with their teenagers the best they can. So you lose some of that exposition of just understanding that this is an authentic family, because at the end of the day, all those conversations in Anybody Have a Map, they are all conversations that anyone would imagine their family having. And so this idea that these two families, are very connected and are on similar paths with their two teenage sons, that is not really established in the opening of the movie. And neither is this understanding that the moms really are trying their best and are not just like neglectful parents.
Right. And instead it gets so jarring when we do meet Connor and Zoe's parents for the first time in the principal's office, but we will get to that. I also do want to mention that it's very clear to me that Ben Platt is singing live, and that a lot of the actors are singing live for a lot of this movie. I've never said this, and I've never thought this before watching a movie. I think it would be to Ben Platt's benefit to not sing live, because he really has to do some weird things with his eyes and with his face to hit the notes that he's hitting. And I think that he could maybe look a little more natural if he was lip syncing.
I don't think singing live is to the benefit of films the way they think it is. Like, the only time I can really think of it, like, I think really working was, Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl, like the beginning of My Man, she sings live, but she actually goes from singing live into lip syncing in it. Oh, wow. But she was like, I have to sing it live to cry.
I wonder if that's why they chose to do that in this, because so many of the songs are so emotionally charged that they wanted to keep some of that authenticity in their voices.
I feel like the live singing sort of is trying to capture that in the room energy that we were talking about earlier, that like element of a live performance. But when you do a live performance for a room full of people, like, you are trying to project, you are trying to like convey feeling across great distances of space. And when you do that same performance for a camera, it's too big because the camera is so close to you and so attuned to picking up all of the little tiny pieces. And like, I kept thinking when we were watching it this last time, like, everything he's doing would read so well on stage. Another thing is that they stage all of the songs here sitting down. Like, no one moves while they're singing. They stand in one place or they sit in one place, and like the camera moves around them, not really in like a coordinated way, just sort of in a like put some movement into it. And like that is then fighting against the live singing energy of it too. It's very conflicted.
Because they're removing that social media aspect from the beginning of the show. And in the show, he's on stage surrounded by all this social media during Waving Through a Window. Like, there are no other sets. It's not him walking through a hallway. I mean, you get that sense because kids are wearing backpacks, but there's not like lockers flying into set or anything. The tapping on the glass stuff, that's referring to tapping on the window of the screen of a phone.
Is the window Microsoft?
Oh.
I think it's supposed to be a phone, like the glass of a phone. And I feel like we don't get that.
God damn, that Bill Gates has his grubby little mitts and everything.
Wait, the window in Dear Evan Hansen is the phone screen?
That's my
That's
interpretation
blowing
of
my
it.
mind. That's blowing my mind.
That's some English teacher shit. I
I
love
know.
it.
I was like,
Tap, tap, tapping on the
holy
glass.
shit.
Definitely not, like, they definitely make it seem like the mirror is the window in
Uh-huh.
this, as well as a window.
There are several moments. He's physically looking through a window. So, waving through a window, Evan's life is a shit show. He gets chastised by his mom, Heidi, played by Julianne Moore, who we meet later and not right away, but gives great mom energy. He has a crush on marching band electric guitarist Zoe, played by Caitlin Denver. His only friend at school, Jared, downgrades him to family friend. Vicious. And he gets yelled at for no reason by Zoe's troubled brother, Connor, Colton Ryan.
So we meet Jared at this school assembly. He's talking to Jared, and we're periodically seeing Alana give her speech to the students. And there's one point where it's Evan and Jared talking, and then it just cuts to Alana, and she just goes, "Model you in," and then it cuts away from them.
That's how pep rallies are, you know? It's just kids shouting random organizations and clubs
That is
until
fair.
it all breaks out into a marching band number.
Model you in.
We haven't really been introduced to Alana at that point either. Like, it
Yeah.
seems like a girl yelling Model UN in the middle of a room is, like, supposed to be our introduction to her whole
Model
thing.
UN.
Exactly.
I will say, as an English teacher, I really, really enjoy the indirect characterization that is used throughout the opening of this movie. Like, I could use this opening clip to my students and be like, all right, these are examples of indirect characterization. What do we know about these characters? You know, it is so much just you are observing and making these snap judgments of these characters, just like high school students do to each other, which
Wow.
I kind of love.
Again, I didn't know anything about this story beforehand, so when he's singing this song, I kept trying to figure out, like, what his problem is, what exactly his damage is, so to speak. And I thought for sure, and this is a bad way to say that right after I just said that, and I don't mean the two are linked, but I thought for sure, I was like, oh, he's autistic, and he's having trouble communicating because he's autistic, but that's not what it is at all. He just has some anxiety, and it's like, oh, bro, you're a white dude in 2021, that's not enough anymore.
And the movie actually, it goes into that he has a social anxiety disorder. It talks about anxiety and depression, and it labels that. In the stage show, it doesn't. The stage show, it
interesting.
doesn't talk about what he actually is experiencing.
Oh, and then let's talk about Jared. So Jared, I understand, and Kerry, you can tell me if this is right, is not gay and is not Indian in the stage show. Mm-mm. And in fact, what Steph told me is that he actually makes a bunch of homophobic jokes in the stage show, and that it seemed like making him gay was sort of their way to fix that and still let him make those jokes in the movie.
Yeah. Yep.
I can confirm, as a gay man, I make a lot of homophobic jokes.
Right, it seems like a very effective way to do that.
Yeah, I've been called the F word more by you than anyone in my life.
I call everyone faggot. I often have a hard time, because in this show, I'm like, oh, Evan Hansen's gay in this show. And then I watch it, and it's like, no, he's not. He just isn't. That's something I make up in my head, I think, every time I walk away. I think
let's stick a pin in that, because I definitely want to come back to that during Sincerely Me.
Oh yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Wait, the only thing I want to say before we move on, because we sort of just brought it up, is that if you are a person who really wants to explore all of these, like, weird choices and inconsistencies, I really recommend a video by culture videoist Jenny Nicholson. The video is called A Needlessly Thorough Roast of Dear Evan Hansen. So Evan gets yelled at by Connor. We see Connor get picked on a little bit, and then we see that he just, like, takes it out on the person nearest in proximity to
It's a cat kicking world.
You gotta kick some cats.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they try and get on my lap while I'm at the theater.
Then Zoe comes up and attempts to apologize to Evan for Connor's behavior. She introduces herself, but Evan Naruto runs out of the hallway because he can't take it.
One of the most epic runs ever.
Just as beautiful.
The Evan run. It's just perfection.
Like, I feel like you could seamlessly cut it with that guy who Naruto ran through Area 51 in the back of that newscast, and it would just look like Evan ran right out of the hallway to Area 51.
I also love, like, throughout these opening scenes, the inspirational background posters on the wall.
Yes.
Like, one that is such a public high school thing. It is just so spot on. But I also love that if you look closely, most of the posters are about like celebrating each other's diverse differences. And that's the exact opposite of what all these kids are doing to each other. But to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's a real high school.
Yeah.
So now we're in the computer lab. Evan writes another more disparaging letter to himself, and he sends it to the printer before he actually has a pretty friendly interaction with Connor. Connor signs his cast as a gesture of friendship, and we get that sort of signature cast look with the arm cast that says Connor. However, Connor finds Evan's letter on the printer and becomes furious at the mention of his sister Zoe. Believing that Evan wrote the letter to provoke him, he storms out with the letter in hand, and Evan skips his therapist appointment to search social media websites for himself to see if Connor has posted the letter anywhere.
What a nightmare.
This makes so much more sense, though, in the context of where that's coming from. Without that pre-context, I was just like, what the fuck is this kid doing?
Yeah.
Like, how does he think any of this works?
The modern nightmare of having to search social media for yourself to see if you're being roasted. Oh, when he signs Evan's cast, he puts his name on Evan's cast the way that Andy writes his name on Woody and Buzz in Toy Story. I mean, he writes it on the entire arm, like he is marking his territory. It is no one has ever signed a cast like that. It's wild.
And I think and I hate to keep being the person that's like in the stage show, but
am I old school?
Yeah, I feel like seeing him. We don't get a lot of that background story on Connor, like you do in the show. In that opening song. And I think the kid that they have playing Connor in this one is kind of cute. And like, he's got a cute little baby face. And like, it seems like the most offbeat thing about him is he like paints his nails black.
Yeah.
I feel like I knew some kids who had like that kind of teenage rage when I was in high school, but they weren't like mercilessly bullied like that for their rage. They were just like, they clearly had it. I don't know. It doesn't read as consistent at all.
I'm sorry, bullying kids with rage is for countries that have gun control.
Amen.
Can't afford that shit here. It's one of my favorite jokes in the movie. It's one of the only jokes in the movie that Jared says that Connor threw a printer at their second grade teacher because she wouldn't let him be line leader. But yeah, so we're about to get a big shock.
Oh, big shock.
Oh, this was a moment, audible gasp in the theater. All of my high school students were stunned that this happened. They were not expecting it whatsoever.
Wow.
So it was a really powerful moment for them, which was like, just as a teacher, really cool to see that something was that affecting to them.
So 3 days later, Evan is called in the principal's office and is told by Connor's parents, Cynthia and Larry, played by Amy Adams and Danny Pino, that Connor has died by suicide. And despite Evan's attempts, I'm going to put quotation marks around attempts, to tell the truth, they have fully misinterpreted the letter that Connor stole from Evan as a note addressed to Evan. And Connor's name on Evan's cast solidifies their belief that Evan was Connor's best and most dearest friend.
That's an exact quote from Amy Adams, reeking of desperation. I mean, so first of all, the principal says, Connor Murphy's parents are here, they want to see you. And then he puts the student alone in an office with two bereaved parents. I actually screamed out loud. I was like, no, without the teacher, bullshit. No
guidance counselor, social worker, anyone in the room. No.
Carrie, you're a teacher. That would never happen, right?
No, never. Not
incredible.
At all.
I mean, this movie the story is melodrama. Like, the story is very, like, exaggerated, like, operatic almost. And I think that's why it works better on the stage as well, you know? Because, like, the plot twist and the way that people act in this movie is a little soap opera-y.
It's a sitcom plot. It is a sitcom plot.
Yeah.
I want to say that.
Yeah.
It's a sitcom plot that's like, oh, this letter got misplaced.
This is very rom-com. This is You Got Mail. This is...
Yes.
I'm writing a letter to myself, and, it's a suicide note.
Yeah.
It's like, like when Sandra Bullock, like, has to pretend she's in love with that guy in a coma. You know, like It's very much that.
But man, I guess he sort of tries. He's like, oh, I didn't write this. And then she basically grabs his hand and says, this is all we have. Yeah. And
Okay, I want to give props here to Amy Adams because I think that she is working with not a very good foundation on which to hang this performance. Like, they're given really nothing for, like, why Evan doesn't just say it there. And she is really selling the desperation of
They are
Cynthia.
putting A-listers in these redheaded mom roles. They are putting A-list redhead moms in this movie. They're throwing money at Julianne Moore and Amy Adams for these parts. It feels like almost such a waste or a curveball.
Does she even sing more than the one time?
no, she has like half a verse.
She has like half a verse and that's it.
Yeah.
And they got Amy Adams.
Yeah, you've heard of the concept of getting somebody for a song? I mean, they got Amy Adams for a song.
I've heard from people that Amy Adams is a reverse Jennifer Hudson in that she can, when she's on stage, she can act, but as soon as she starts singing, she stops acting.
She can't sing.
Whereas Jennifer Hudson,
Oh.
whenever she starts singing, she starts acting.
She's the greatest sing actor of all time.
What I also want to point out here, because we're about to move to our second song, but like we have only had that one song in this movie musical. And we're like 30 minutes in now.
Yeah.
But that's about to end because Evan is invited over to the Murphy's house. Again, why?
Yeah, he's like, I'll tell him. I'll go over there and I'll tell him. And just like, fucking text
It'll be
them.
easier. It'll be easier when they've prepared a meal for me.
Right.
Cynthia tells Evan that she knows there must be more correspondence between them on email addresses of Connor's that they don't know about and therefore didn't snoop on like they did on his main, which apparently is just a normal
Yeah, and then she really wants to see him. She's like begging Evan to see. She's like, I know there were these he must have had other accounts. And so this premise, I mean, Steph, if I die, please don't go through my group texts.
Literally, the first thing I'm doing is burning everything.
Stay out of the group text. And I don't mean just for you. I mean, like, the people don't need to see it. Like, that was, like, please, the correspondences, they should die with me.
This is a generational thing, though, where our parents were never like this, but parents of kids now, they oversee their emails, they oversee their texts, they oversee their locations, they all have GPS trackers on their phones, they oversee everything. That's where that term helicopter parents came from. So it is not outside the realm.
Do you monitor your dog's email?
I wish. I would love to see those conversations.
You're like, I know Chief has secret accounts.
Correct. I'd more so rather see my cat Fitz and what his accounts would be to my dog. I think that would be really...
I only monitor my dog's Reddit.
Wow, I don't even know Steph's Reddit. That's wild.
I do love that Amy Adams in this scene, though. She would be the world's worst person at a psychic reading. She is just feeding everything to Evan of like, what about the orchard? Did you talk about the orchard? He's like, what was the name of that orchard again? And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the orchard.
Something I'm pretty sure I said out loud to Steph when we watched this the first time is he's making up this song and he's like throwing in the things that she's saying, and I was just like, man, he would kill at a corporate gig. You know what I mean? Like, if he was just like, oh yeah, give me all the information about your boss, I'll make up a song roasting him, you know?
Wait, Andy, I'm so sorry. I have to go back and address your corporate gig because that reminds me. I was hired, when I went to cosmetology school, I was hired by one of the teachers to make a song for, like, the corporate side of, like, the school, or, like, for all the workers. And so she was like, I made like a parody song of WAP to like talk about cleaning up. And then they're like, oh my God, he's a cheap. He does it. And so then they made me do a Thanksgiving parody song. And she gave me like a list of information on each of like the people and they were asking me to make a parody song. And the information they gave me was like, my son got over his addiction this year. Like, I'm glad.
Is it like the things they were thankful for or whatever?
It
They
was
wanted
like
you
the
to put
things
that
they
in?
were
Yeah.
thankful for, and I'm like, right. It was like based on the things they were thankful for, and I was like, oh god, I couldn't not write a parody song to "It Wasn't Me" by Shaggy.
I'm gonna take my son to the methadone. He's gonna till he don't snort no more.
Anyway, sorry. That was my. But I went.
Worth it.
The Thanksgiving party. It wasn't me, and instead of "It Wasn't Me," I go Thanksgiving. Mashed potato with the gravy.
Thanksgiving.
Turkey.
So what's this song called, Steph? This song is called
This song is called For Forever.
For Forever.
And yes, we haven't said that explicitly, but this is the song that he just like starts singing. We also get, this was the first time where I really like fell into noticing his stage singing in a movie, because he does a lot of these little hand gestures that are like literal interpretations of the thing that he's talking about. So if he's talking about like the breeze, he like waves his hand like it's a breeze, or just like, but they're like these little twitchy things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're very weird. It's a very weird choice. And again, a song sung very well by Ben Platt.
Yes.
He a great singer. He's a great singer.
Yeah.
I will always defend stage gesturing and stage acting in movies or in other situations, because some of us are genuinely theatrical people in all aspects
Audience,
of life.
what you can't see is how big Beckett's hands are right now.
Some of us, maybe when we're talking about a breeze in real life, maybe we do a little gesture. maybe we gesture to the breeze in real life. And so I think that this could be a plausible character choice.
Yeah.
Maybe this shy kid with some burgers in his ass, if you know what I mean.
I don't think that's the way anyone's ever described that disease.
Some burgers in it?
Some burgers in his ass.
Maybe he's also theatrical a little bit when he's thinking about the breeze.
Yeah. I love how you're like, yeah, maybe some people in other situations, come on stage and twerk to get a crowd to clap at the beginning of a comedy show. Maybe some people do that.
Maybe it's not just me.
You know. But okay, so let's say Ben Platt plays me in a movie, which I can see happening.
Yeah, he's gonna be gesturing like mad.
He's gonna be gesturing like mad, and that's gonna be accurate. Or is he gonna do a more subtle take on me, something a little more nuanced? We don't know.
I think it might be more nuanced, but not more subtle.
So we learned earlier, he told Jared that he broke his arm falling out of the tree, and that no one came for him. He sat there and he waited, and no one came for him. He waited for 10 minutes. And when he's telling this story to the family, he basically puts him falling out of the tree in there, but someone's there for him this time. It's Connor. He creates what he needs, which is someone to have been there for him.
Yeah. He's very much like manifesting the friendship that he has wished he's had.
I think that's where you see some of that motivation for why he keeps the story going for so long and why he allows it to get to the level it does.
Yeah.
I also will say that For Forever is one of those songs that I know that I like. This is one of those songs that I would have gone into the mirror late at night and like looked in the mirror and like lip sync / maybe sang a little, but probably not because I couldn't wake up my parents at this point in the night. and like cried in the mirror, and then I like cry in the mirror listening to the song and pretending to act to it, and I'd be like, I'm like, bitch, you should win an Oscar. And that's what happened to Ben Platt, and this is why it's complicated, because he thought he was going to win an Oscar for this.
That really seems like what this movie was.
It's completely what this movie is.
Ben Platt's father is the producer of this movie.
This is where my complicated feelings are.
Okay, yeah.
But I will say, at least I feel like Ben Platt has talent to back that up a little.
Oh, yeah.
He does have the talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And let's just say they put him in there with some pillars.
He just happens to be 28 years old trying to play a 17-year-old at the time.
I guess I just do want to say that none of these songs really... So some of them grow on me. Like Waving Through a Window has kind of been growing on me, but it didn't really stick to my bones the first time I heard it. A lot of these songs to me are like, they're kind of like Mumford and Sons album tracks. You know what I mean?
So there's actually an interesting reason for that.
Yeah.
I either read this somewhere or I heard it somewhere that the artistic choices behind the styles of songs, it was meant to be what kind of music that character would be wanting to listen to at that moment in their emotional space and be based off their character.
This must have been the town where Mumford and Sons is from.
You're telling me that Pasek and Paul are Mumford's sons?
Yeah.
Everyone's a nepotism baby in
Yeah.
this movie.
Paul Mumford and Pasek Mumford.
Yes.
Okay, but
Yeah, I say that so that we can go into this.
I think I feel comfortable saying that the sequence that comes up is like the first one that I was just like, oh hell yeah, that was a number.
Yeah.
So Amy Adams has begged Evan for a chance to look at his secret correspondence with Connor. And so Evan enlists aforementioned family friend Jared to help him fabricate backdated emails between him and Connor to confirm this story. In a song called Sincerely Me, which is sung by Connor with like little interstitial bursts of Evan and Jared like doing the writing.
Editing.
And importantly editing, because we see all the different iterations. And this one is cute. I feel like this is the first time that I was like, all right, we're watching a musical now. They're making choices.
This is the one time I'm going to say this on this podcast for this movie. This song rules. This song absolutely rules. I've listened to this song like once a day since I saw the movie. It's so fun. It's so cute. They're all very funny in it. That, like, again, the gay jokes throughout it are whatever. But here's what I want to say about the gay jokes. Is like, at least Jared is the one person saying, this kind of makes it seem like you two are in love. Mm-hmm. No one else in the movie says, like, again, Steph, if I died and you found I had a secret email address where I only emailed one guy and we talked about our feelings, wouldn't you be like, it kind of sounds like they're in love?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
I can't recommend enough, though, that if you're just listening to this and you're not watching the movie, watch Sincerely Me. It's a lot of fun.
And then watch a bootleg of the stage show. Just combine those things together.
Well, I just wanted to say also, while Sincerely Me is with the most fun, hands down number in the show, it also truly shows the depravity and the depths that Evan is sinking to in a great dark comedy way, where he's not just making it look like they were friends, but he's making it look like he was trying to save Connor, and he's just like, stop doing drugs and be nice. It's truly messed up, but also just so fun. Like, I'm having so much fun that I don't care.
Yeah, I'm stuck in extreme people pleasing.
Yeah.
This could be like redoing this movie, like, but making Evan like a dark, like an anti-hero could be like a good, like, let's see like a Don Draper Evan Hansen. You know what I mean? Like a little schemy, like Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so good. Like, that would be really good to watch.
Give him that conflict. Let us see that, like, debate with himself instead of just this, like, little measle boy.
And I think that, like, you can see, like, for someone with social anxiety, like, you can see that Evan doesn't really have friends. So in his imagination, this is what a best friendship actually looks like. Like, I don't think to Evan, there's anything about this made up relationship with Connor that seems weird or odd until Jared tells him, like, dude, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous. Because he doesn't have that connection with anyone.
Yeah. You can't email people about trees.
No.
You can't be emailing people about trees.
Hey, you know what?
Unless, I mean, again, I would assume it's weed if I saw two high schoolers emailing about trees.
I do. I guess I want this to be my moment of defending high schoolers who email each other about trees. That's like a type of thirsty that I was.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, no offense, Steph.
It all gets better in college. You find your other things.
Okay, so what does happen next?
Play some hacky sack in the quad.
So now we see the family like receiving these letters, and they think that they're learning more about Connor, and they sing this song Requiem from separate rooms of their house. It's mostly about how Zoe refuses to mourn Connor, but also it shows how upset she is by driving her car with no hands.
I can't.
I'll be honest with you, this is a big skip track for me.
Is it? And like, it shouldn't be. I feel like I guess it shouldn't be for me. It should be something that like really hooks me. I love those sort of interconnected melodies like that, and it just falls
Listen,
flat.
I bought the Dear Evan Hansen soundtrack on iTunes, I think, when it came out, and I was still running things on iTunes.
Wow.
I remember I would listen to Sincerely Me nonstop. I listened to that song nonstop. This song I always skipped.
Yeah.
And then somebody told me that was their favorite song in the musical.
Then get them to a therapist. Get them help.
I do like Requiem, kind of, actually.
It's that like folky thing.
Yeah, it's like a Dixie Chicks song.
Kerry, do you agree with me? Do you agree?
I do like Requiem, but I don't love the movie version of it, only because I can't with the car scene. I feel like if they had just stayed on the characters and had just stayed, especially on the parents, again, we're losing that adult character emotional conflict. We're losing the separation of their, like, the fact that they are just all in their own separate spaces at their own home. You're seeing the distance between these family members. And so by just solely focusing so much of the song on Zoe and what Zoe's going through, you lose that disconnect.
Yes.
And you lose understanding what the parents are dealing with. And I think you really lose out a little bit on the character motivation.
The ending shot is what I described earlier today as like an an end of scene shot from Seventh Heaven, where it like slowly fades out of just the front of a house, and like they're not even, you could have like had them like looking out different windows and like so close to connecting, but then we see this physical space between them. No, it just like it does these like wipes between faces floating across the screen, and then just it's so nothing burger.
I literally described to Steph a scene from Half Baked that to me gets this idea across better, where it shows the teen smoking pot in his room from outside, and then it pans across to the other window where the dad is smoking pot trying to figure out how to relate to his son. And I'm like, that was a much better shooting of this idea than they did in this movie.
Okay, so Zoe invites Evan over for gluten-free apple pie and wonders to Evan why Connor, in his suicide note, expressed a longing to be able to talk to her. Evan tells her all the things he loves about her under the guise of them being Connor's thoughts.
So what's the song called?
It's called If I Could Tell Her.
This song is so fucking weird.
It's so...
This is where, okay, so my biggest issue with Ben Platt as Evan in this movie version is not so much his age, but the age of his co-stars.
Yes.
I feel like if they had aged up his co-stars, his age difference wouldn't seem so apparent. I feel like she looks so young. She looks like a high schooler.
Yes.
This song becomes so awkward and becomes so predatory.
And it was already awkward, too. Like, it's like on top of the textual part, too.
She was about 23 when she filmed this, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, I gotta say, that's not even in the top 5 most weird things about this scene to me.
I feel like the blocking of this comes off as predatory. I feel like this is where we really see that age difference. The lighting choices are just interesting. This whole thing is just so awkward to me.
Yeah, he's like prowling around her like Donald Trump did to Hillary at that town hall debate. But then also he's just like, oh, Connor loved how you did those teen girl quizzes, and Connor loved how smart you were, and Connor thought you had a great ass. And like, I mean, that's like basically what it starts to feel like, is he's like, Connor said your skin was so supple. And she's just like, oh, awesome, tell me more. In the actual
recording version, when he says, you looked really pretty, like when she dyes her hair, he makes that flip where he says, he thought you looked pretty. I mean, it looked pretty cool when you put indigo in your hair. So he does have those slip-ups that, again, adds to the humor and adds to the kind of adorable puppy love that Evan has for her, whereas in the movie, he does not do that.
So, yeah. And then they eat the gluten-free pie.
Which looks fine, by the way. They're
right?
Like, oh, you're going to be so sorry, this pie. Oh, it's gluten-free pie. And I'm like, that pie looks fine. Enjoy it.
I'm recording a podcast.
Oh, God damn it, Beckett.
I'm recording a podcast.
Such a social animal.
Okay, so
Sorry,
yeah,
girls.
they eat the gluten-free fry. So now Alana comes back. She's the Model UN friend.
And we have never seen her interact with Evan once in this entire movie, so of course she's going to send him a text message that says, I need to talk to you.
And she tells him about the Connor Project. She tells a student group that's dedicated to keeping Connor's memory alive with an upcoming assembly as the kickoff. And then she also shares about her own mental health issues and that she has a lot of the same anxiety issues that Evan has. And she lays all of these out in a song called The Anonymous Ones, where we get this moment where we see the opening sequence of the movie with Evan moving through the halls all alone, but this time it's like from Alana's perspective and like the loneliness that she is experiencing at the same moment.
Yeah, they must have just watched Hamilton and saw Satisfied.
I wish that they did like anything with that. I wish that there was like if we like saw something interesting from a new angle or saw just really literally anything other than it happened.
The first time I watched this movie, I did think that it was it's almost like a better version of Evan's song of waving through the window. But it's really just that she's kind of just more dynamic than Ben Platt. This is Amanda Stenberg, who I know from playing Rue in Hunger Games. But she is... Beckett just had a moment of realization.
I didn't realize that was Rue. Well, I just saw her in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. People were like, she's in Hunger Games. And now I realized that it was Rue, but I had no idea. Okay.
But she, and I don't know if, Kerry, I'm sure you know this, she co-wrote this song, Anonymous Ones, with Pasek and Paul for this movie.
Yeah, I don't mind the song being added in.
No.
Because Alana doesn't really have much of a voice in the original version, and I might be remembering this wrong, but I feel like she does have some comments to Evan about feeling invincible because she's a person of color.
And that's not in the movie at all, is it?
Which is not in the movie at all, but I do like that they give her a little bit more voice.
Now, I will say that at one point she opens her locker door, and plastering her locker door is all of her certificates of achievement and ribbons from an academic standpoint, and that would be the fucking most annoying kid in school. Like, you take those at home so your parents can look at them, and like to have them all in your locker for all the other children is the most insufferable thing I can think of.
Yeah. This is another instance where they sit down to sing. They had been walking, and then they actively stop moving because they're about to sing.
Yeah, sit on a swing set.
Why? So now we go to the aforementioned assembly, which is like an assembly / memorial service for Connor. And at the assembly, Connor's parents have asked Evan to give a speech. He goes out there, the microphone knows that it's going bad.
This is something you notice a lot in movies about stand-up comedy. If you are bombing, if you are having a bad time, if you are feeling awkward, the microphone knows in movies, and the microphone feeds back too.
It gives you emotional feedback.
It is one of my least favorite things, Vin, so it's like a thing to show that things are going bad, so the microphone immediately feeds back on Evan.
That is true. That is so true.
They cut out another song here too.
Oh, really?
Yeah?
Yeah, so they cut out a song called Disappear, which is Evan and Connor having conversations with each other. And it's this idea of like no one will be forgotten. And it's where you're understanding Evan's feelings, like he's the one that he feels like he's being forgotten after making some slight connections with people at school. And so that's what his impetus is for getting more involved in the Connor Project and for saying yes to speaking at this assembly.
So he's like, they like took away a level of just villainness from him.
Oh, see, to me it goes...
why he decides to say that he will speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you miss out on that kind of back and forth decision making in his head between him and basically his subconscious version of Connor.
So he turns it around. It's not clear to me if like the speech that everyone is hearing is him performing the song, or if the speech is supposed to be represented by this song. But it's the song "You Will Be Found," and
musical logic.
And I have to imagine that it's like the big Act 1 closer. And they represent, the connection between a lot of people with again this screen moment where we see people sharing this message, and he goes big viral.
Yeah, finally we get the social media aspect in the movie. But yeah, so
and the lady with the beard singing this one.
Yes, it is that same song.
Yes.
I feel like again, like this is where we lose out. We don't see that negative aspect of social media that you would have seen earlier. so then this like superly charged positive moment of social media and the great things that social media can do all of a sudden becomes very superficial and feels very cheesy and just too over the top and just too much.
Well, also, I want to say it's important to me that the reason that he is being filmed is because he starts to drop his note cards. Everything starts to go wrong for him. And that's when people take out their phones. All these little shits in the high school assembly want to film him losing his mind. And instead he turns it around and gives this great speech and everyone starts sharing it like, I saw the best speech today, when in fact they were going to share it to their fucking friends in their WhatsApp groups and laugh at him.
Yep.
F at Gaggett. It is epic failure. Can't even deliver suicide eulogy.
Oh, I thought you were just calling me the F word again.
No. I was trying to do that. But Andy, you are a faggot.
Okay, well, I edit this podcast, Beckett.
So this video goes big viral. It makes Larry hug Cynthia, Zoe hug Evan, and seemingly makes Evan's cast come off. We get this like symbolic rebirth into a new period where Evan doesn't have the physical representation of his inadequacies. I mean, I'm gonna not say inadequacies. I'm gonna say his damage.
Sure, which we're going to learn more about later. There's a big twist coming with the whole what the cast represents and everything.
His differences is how we would say it in school.
And so here we get a launch of the Connor Project, which it turns out is a Kickstarter to reopen the apple orchard that was Connor's favorite apple orchard, but wasn't Connor's favorite apple orchard because Evan made that up. It's
hard to tell if Connor actually liked that apple orchard or not, because even at the end, after everything, Zoe is like, he really liked this place.
Did he? Or is she just like, I've like created this thing about my brother?
Well, okay, here's what I'm going to say.
Give me.
There aren't that many people who hate apple orchards. He probably did like the apple orchard.
That's fair.
Well, we love a cinnamon donut, all of us, among us. So I think that this is fair. I think he probably did like it. I'll defend Evan Hansen on this one.
I guess what I want to say is, spoiler alert, we see that apple orchard in the very last scene of the movie. It is the most uncinematic apple orchard I've ever seen in my life.
It is sort of just a field with some apple trees.
Not in the long tradition of cinematic apple orchards.
Jenny Nicholson in her video also pointed out how there's like one moment where Alana is ADR'd into like clearly ADR'd into saying like, in addition to all of the actual support groups, we're going to be doing a Kickstarter. But like it's so clear that what's in the script and what they originally filmed was just this Kickstarter, and then after the fact someone was like, hey, you have to give these kids counseling.
I think that's another thing that this movie has a hard time with, is like in this adaptation I feel like they're trying to address the larger like struggle. I think this story works better as just a story.
Yes.
Almost devoid of like what's happening in current times.
And value,
and like
yes.
It's devoid of like commentary and like just in the melodrama and the emotions that come from the story. And I think that they're trying too hard to be like, let's address these things and let's talk about these issues.
And the whole like starting a Kickstarter line in the actual song version, Alana's the one that's like trying to get the word out. And then it's Jared that talks about a major financial fundraising.
Oh wow!
It is just Jared is in there for the money.
Yeah,
which is so on brand for his character. And so to have like Alana be the one be like, "Yeah, we're doing a Kickstarter," that's why it feels disingenuous because it's not Jared being the one being like, let's raise some money.
Yeah, again, one of the only great jokes in this movie to me, it's again another Jared moment, and it's where Alana introduces, she talks about the Connor Project and the orchard and the fundraiser, and then she says, and now we're gonna hear some words from our global director of marketing, and then Jared walks into the frame. And he says, hey, and if you guys haven't read those emails between Connor and Evan, get some tissues ready. What a fucking psychopath.
He says about his own
work, which he was initially going to charge Evan $5,000 an email for before being talked down to nothing.
I feel like Jared in the movie is the real Ben Platt.
Spicy, James. Wait, I want to say one thing.
I'm so scared of Ben Platt. I'm so scared of him. He's gonna beat the shit out of me. Or like,
I want to say one thing about the social commentary thing, which is that I think it works when you were talking about it with the stage show, that it's all done in setting. And so they don't ever have to talk about it because it's done in a way that just lets you understand the context for this very individualized story. And that's what they've lost, is that like they're not just telling the individualized story in a context, they're trying to make a comment about the context too. And that's
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, here's my idea. I want to start talking a little early about our reboot, because this is my idea: a second screen experience where you on your phone are getting social media feeds that take place within the movie the whole time.
That was a big part of the original show, wasn't it? Was like you could send like messages or something, and they put them on.
Yeah, they would like pop up during intermission.
Wow, that's fun.
You'd see like a feed.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're launching a Kickstarter. We get a scene where Larry is bonding with Evan over a baseball glove, which we have never seen Evan once care about, right?
But I don't think I understood what purpose that song played in the show or the movie. So maybe Kerry.
Right. So here's my take on it. We've understood that Connor's dad has a disconnect from Connor, and we understand that Evan's dad isn't around. For Evan, he's lived his whole life without having this dad around, and he's starting to feel that father-son connection to Connor's dad. And again, it's helping you understand that character motivation for Evan of why he keeps wanting to be a part of this family and why he keeps this lie going. And it's because he feels this connection to Zoe. He feels this connection to the mom. He feels this connection now to the dad.
I guess I have a general overarching question related to that, which is like, are you able to feel that for Evan, despite, like, do you not feel like Evan is kind of a monster, like, at this point in the play with all the shit that he's done? Are you able to feel that kind of sympathy for him?
I think because you understand that there are some real social emotional issues there that he has not come to terms with, and that it's manifesting in a certain way. And honestly, I've seen kids like this, and the kids that kind of tell themselves these stories or make choices. Again, their frontal lobes are not developed.
Right. So you're saying it's no different than Beckett lip syncing in the mirror and telling himself he's going to win an Oscar?
Exactly.
Okay.
100%. And that's how it manifests if it goes unchecked for years and years and years.
Shots fired.
She's like, you come for Ben Platt, I come for you.
So I definitely think his choices are wrong and not good, but I understand where they're kind of coming from.
Sure. Oof. I feel like we're like moving from seeing how ingratiated he is with various members of this Grievian family.
We see him get a text from Amy Adams that just says that the stepdad has been in such a great mood since you came over.
Oh my god. It's creepy.
Which again, I'd be like, did you fuck my husband?
Right? So Zoe comes over to Evan's house one night, takes Evan to his bedroom. Like, she does walk in and she's like, well, can I see your room?
Yeah. She seems so single-minded when she walks in that she is there to get his skinny jeans off.
I will say, I really love the set design of these two houses.
Oh, absolutely.
To me, the set design is it's so great in this moment where we see
it's like any
Evan's
suburb
life
USA.
Yes.
Yeah.
So great.
And so we get the song Only Us, which is sort of about her saying, I want to be with you, and it's not because of your friendship with my dead brother. It's because of only us.
Right. It's literally like, hey, we don't have to talk about my dead brother all the time.
Right.
You can put your tongue in my mouth or whatever.
And then he does.
I think I'm paraphrasing, but
Andy has written here, Evan and Zoe show up to dinner with her parents, no doubt stinking of sex, and whoops, Evan's mom is there too.
Oh, I do want to mention also that during Only Us, which is not a bad song, none of these songs really speak to me, but the hooks are good. These guys can write a good chorus, and everything else just kind of feels like people kind of warbling their way to the chorus. And then once they get to the chorus, I'm like, okay, this feels like a song. And that's how Only Us feels to me. And then it's intercut with him missing a Connor project meeting because he is on a seemingly endless series of rides
with Zoe and making out with her on a merry-go-round, on a roller coaster, on a Ferris wheel. I mean, these guys did the whole carnival.
As one does.
As one does.
Yeah, then they go to dinner and Julianne Moore is there.
And Julianne Moore is there, and Cynthia and Larry offer to give Connor's college fund to Evan, and Julianne Moore very fairly declines, refusing charity from the wealthy Murphys, and storms out.
And here we have another cut song. We have Good For You, which is a straight up banger. Gets cut.
Banger!
Really? They cut a banger from this thing?
Oh, that is my, like, I had a long day at school. I am putting this on in the car and belting it out.
Wow.
Yeah,
all right.
It's fantastic. It is full Pat Benatar 80s. It's so great.
And it's also his only comeuppance, kind of, a little.
Yes. And it's not only his mom saying, like, what you've done is wrong and you are a terrible person for doing so, and, like, I'm sorry I couldn't give you everything you wanted, but you also hear Connor, Alana, and Jared all saying what you did to us was shitty and that you completely walked over us and used us for your own personal gain. And so it is meant to be this, like, internal conflict for Evan about what he chose to do.
God, I needed that.
I know. And you miss that.
I needed that
perspective again.
I needed just like a moment. I keep thinking about how this movie is like a level of abstraction away from real life. But it doesn't achieve, it's a level of abstraction away from real life, but it doesn't do that well because it keeps trying to, all of its film language keeps trying to, like, stay grounded in reality. And, like,
I wish they would have played up the style more. I wish they would have.
Again,
Just,
check
like,
out World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams.
And honestly, I think they cut most of the mom's songs because Julianne Moore doesn't sing.
Which that's something I read and heard, but her performance, which is coming up in a little bit, is fine. It's good.
Fine. Yeah,
it's
right.
I mean, Good For You is definitely, like, you need a fairly solid powerhouse vocalist there, and I mean, again, that's why I miss Rachel Bay Jones. Rachel Bay Jones is phenomenal as Evan's mom.
She is. She's so good in that part. Well, they should have gotten a Broadway girl. I really think they should have gotten a Broadway girl for this role. I think that was a mistake. As much as I think Julianne Moore is obviously a great actress, it was a part that I think needed to be somebody who knew how to do, like, musical theater.
Switch them up. Amy Adams can. I'm pretty sure Amy Adams can sing. She sings in Enchanted, right?
Yeah.
So switch them up.
Vocalist.
Yeah, switch them up. Let Julianne Moore warble the one verse of Requiem. Let Amy Adams do a solo number.
Into it. Mm-hmm. Instead, we get to see Alana's version of manifesting this is that we see her like doing the CSI thing with the timeline of Evan's emails, and we see that she's doubting Evan's friendship.
Oh, she's at home with a red yarn, stretching it from corkboard to corkboard.
Because she's the smart girl, Model UN.
Model UN.
Model UN. Model UN.
As a way of, like, proving it, I guess, Evan emails her the MacGuffin therapy letter saying this was Connor's suicide note.
I just want to say that there's, I mean, a bone-chilling moment where Alana turns to Evan in the stacks of the library and says, yeah, we can do all that. Hey, quick question. Were you ever really fucking friends with him?
She drops that F.
Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's how Evan is so cornered, like a dog, like a dirty, mangy dog that he is. He gets that original letter that he wrote to himself and shows it to her, and he's like, "See, Connor wrote this. That's how deep in he is. Mm-hmm. God, he's so sweaty. You could see if this were a comic book, you'd see the stink lines coming off of him."
And so, without asking Evan, Alana posts the letter on social media because the Connor Project is failing to get its funding goal. And so she thinks that this will give it the push that it needs. And for some reason that we, the audience, are not privy to, it makes people mad and creates a backlash against the Murphys. And so within seemingly minutes, people are giving them dirty stares at the grocery store because they've seen this letter.
Literally, Alana presses click, and then it cuts to Amy Adams and the stepdad at the grocery store, and she's checking out, and she looks over at another aisle, and a woman is looking at her phone and looking up at Amy Adams and shaking her head.
We do see this text message from, or a comment on the post of like, I can't believe a rich family is asking for more money. Well, like, no, their goal is 100,000 and they're at 75. So like, what do you think a Kickstarter does? They ask
Right.
for more money to reach their goal.
And also, I don't understand why that wasn't a problem to this point.
Right. Why wasn't that a problem for the first $75,000?
Right.
Like, what is it about this moment that has like, and I guess thinking about this thing about the setting of social media, I can see how what they're trying to do is show how fickle a viral crowd will be. And so how like it doesn't take anything to just completely sway perception of someone. But
No, viral crowds are fickle. I was at Berlin last night.
I do like though that it is what makes Evan realize that what he's done is horrible and that how much it's affecting other people and not just him, which then leads us to words fail.
So it's like within an hour, Cynthia and Larry are just like fighting each other, no holds barred, and Evan comes in and can't take it and comes clean. And he comes clean in the song Words Fail, where he sort of just like tells everyone.
This is the moment in the show where, number one, he got a standing ovation. Number two, we all just looked at each other and went, he's going to win the Tony. Because it was, honestly, I mean, I've seen a lot of live theater, and it is one of the most powerful live performances I have ever seen. That man being able to go from just pure crying, sobbing snot to immediately belting right after it is just a wonder to behold. Like, it was just
everyone says that too. Everyone I've heard who's seen that show says the same thing, that he was amazing.
I mean, it sounds like it's a total, I mean, what they call in Clueless, a total Monet, where like, his performance is really great if you're sitting in the mezzanine, but maybe it's not so great if you got a short lens right up on his face. Again, it's not that his performance is not great. There's nothing fake about his performance. Yeah. It's just, you really see a lot of the gears turning when it's up close.
Yeah.
You can see him resorting back to the acting choices he made on stage in a live version in this scene, and you're like, I don't know how much that works for this medium.
You know what I do like?
I'm just kind of going back to that muscle memory.
Yeah, I do like that. In here we see that, and then Evan admits to his mother, like we finally see that when he fell out of the tree, it was a suicide attempt, that he was trying to fall out of the tree.
Another audible gasp from the teenage audience.
Wow. We see him like physically going back to that same space as he's sort of thinking about all the repercussions. And I like that he gets this big open space in nature to do that really very visceral, powerful performance. Like, I think they do a good job capturing that. So now Evan wants to take responsibility, and he uploads a video to Instagram confessing the truth and telling everyone to leave the Murphys alone. And we see him like sort of being just quietly ostracized, and he then takes the opportunity to learn about Connor. Finally, he reads a list of Connor's favorite books. He gets in touch with people who might have known him through rehab, and all of this is happening with a very sweet song, A Little Closer, and it's montagey. And eventually Evan, through this research, finds a video of Connor performing music while he was in rehab and passes it along to the Murphys, Alana and Jared. I don't know why he passed it along to Jared. That was really confusing to me. But and then it's revealed that the song is being performed by Connor on a video of him at rehab. It's just, I have no problems with this. This is very sweet.
Here's my one problem with it. You know how you take out your phone and film people during group therapy at rehab?
Okay. All right. I love everything but the premise.
Here's my problem with this is a little bit further back. Are we really gonna be concerned with somebody who's jumping out of a tree? I mean, like, that's not that small. That's not that small. It doesn't totally. I mean, it works in the show, but like, I guess just when you like don't have like that like there's some engine that's driving like being in the theater, and like I feel like more of like of like an acceptance of like things.
It's
that
much
are
more
said.
representational, and so we, the audience, are like filling in the scale, and so like we can
Yeah.
picture him falling out of like this 200-foot tree, even if it's not what that is. But then when we're seeing it on the film, I'm like, well, he just climbed that tree, and he's like a little skinny guy, so like, how tall could it be?
Yeah.
And I feel like from a writer's standpoint, I feel like they have to go with something like this because they mean this to be a shocking moment. They mean for this to be a big reveal that it was a suicide attempt. And if he had, taken any other route to try to commit suicide, we would have seen that coming a mile away. Whereas, like, who the hell jumps out of a tree to try to commit suicide?
That's true.
Our brains don't immediately go to, oh, this is a suicide attempt. It takes us a while to get there with him, so it is a bigger reveal at the end of the show.
Well, and when I saw the bootleg of it, like way back when, and I liked the bootleg, and I was invested in the experience a lot, even through the bootleg. I remember thinking like, oh, like the way that all these story elements like come together at the end, like that's like there is good crafting, like that it's an orchard and it's the tree, and that he signs the cats, and then it all like that like block, like all the gears turning together in that moment is I think is really good and is a sign of good writing. And like I think why like the gasping, like it all comes together and is foreshadowed in a cool way, but it just doesn't work as well in the movie.
And I think that's where I miss some of those cut songs so much, because when you get to So Big So Small, which is just, I mean, lovely for Julianne Moore, and I think she does a nice job with it. And like, honestly, when I went and saw it with my brother and sister-in-law, this is my sister-in-law, who's a mother of 2 sons, lost it in So Big, So Small. Like that song just resonated so deeply with her. And I feel like because we haven't seen this parental thread throughout the whole movie, we don't get that same connection to it.
Also, So Big, So Small, the Julianne Moore song is, again, there's nothing fake about her performance. It's very dynamic, but at this point in the movie, I'm just like, God damn it, another fucking down tempo number. Are you kidding me? Like,
because they cut so many of the ups. Good for you, But So Big, So Small, I think was my favorite song from watching the musical, and was the most impactful one for me, and probably like the thing I think of like is like the emotional climax of the musical for me.
Worth mentioning, you mentioned that he looks at a list of Connor's favorite books, and in this movie version, one of them is The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I know from Every Girl I Dated in the 2000s reading. But does anyone know who directed this movie?
Stephen Chbosky.
Was it Stephen Chbosky?
It is. The author of Perks.
Who it just seems like has like done this ping-ponging between writing books and writing movies.
Evan is going to meet with Zoe at the reopened orchard that has been dedicated to Connor's memory. They reconcile for some reason. Zoe tells Evan that she wanted, this I do like. Zoe tells Evan that she wanted him to see the orchard, the one place Connor loved, allegedly. And Evan writes himself, the last shot is him writing himself a new letter. The song is a little closer, the song is a little closer reprise, and he's vowing not to hide or lie and just encouraging himself to be himself. And then it pans over the orchard and we're out.
Okay, it is. Now, as you said that, I do wonder if Pasek and Paul were like, okay, what are we going to do for this play? We need a little closer here. That's it.
But they changed it. This is a changed ending.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
they make him more accountable, right?
Yeah,
having him post
that. They changed the finale song though. In the original, it's a year later when he meets Zoe. So it doesn't seem like it's so immediate. And that I think where Steffi were saying like you don't understand why they all of a sudden reconcile. In the show, it's a year later. And like he's been away at school, he's been staying at home working.
He's like working to save money for college because he's not getting a fucking scholarship anymore.
Right.
This is why I'm against student loan forgiveness. Because we're forgiving $10,000 of Evan Hansen.
No, not with my taxes.
Don't you think? Don't you think that's interesting? I'll just throw that out there.
It's worth mentioning as well that this play closed on Broadway yesterday when this podcast drops.
You're kidding.
Well, this thing was nominated for 4 Razzies. Worst director, worst actor for Platt, worst supporting actress for Adams, and then worst screen combo for, this was who was nominated, Platt and, quote, any other character who acts like Platt singing 24/7 is normal.
One of my favorite Razzie categories ever.
Yeah. Well, before we go into the new song, does anyone have any closing thoughts or anything they want to get out about Dear Evan Hansen?
I would just say, I feel like people can be very divisive about Evan Hansen and about Ben Platt. I feel like you had, and again, English teacher, you have to look at this as a modern day Holden Caulfield. You have to look at this as someone who is so insufferable, so dislikable that there's something you like and you connect with because you see those same things in yourself. If you can look at it with that lens, it is a lot more palatable.
I think that my biggest problem, and you know, this comes probably from being a comedian in the comedy world, is like, I think that to make Evan likable, and that's like they took away a lot of the levity and like the humor that was in the show and in the live production, and I think that makes it harder to connect with him. And when you're working with something that goes into like such deep melodrama and like such like, there's like a heaviness to it that needs to be relieved regularly throughout. I think that would make Evan Hansen more likable. I think that make like the parts of the premise that are insane like more palatable. Like,
yeah,
I think that and it would make the movie feel less heavy and less like a slog.
I actually pulled kind of a great quote from this critic, Barbara McKay, about, it was from a Theater Mania article, but she said, and this was about the stage version, she said, Ben Platt is outstanding as Evan, since the success of the musical depends entirely on whether Evan's solitary nature appears funny or weird. Evan's ability to laugh at himself and make the audience laugh is crucial. Platt is charming as he internally twists his shirt tails and hangs his head. Although the themes of grief and loneliness are serious, the musical is anything but somber. It addresses challenging facts of life, but from start to finish, when Evan leaves his room and finds an authentic life outside of it, Dear Evan Hansen contains far more joy than sadness. And I think, Beckett, that's what you are alluding to, is like, we miss so much of that joy in this movie version.
Yeah, it's not necessarily his performance that is what's wrong with this movie, but I hope he did have fun, because it's probably going to be the last time he top lines a movie. But at least until he plays Beckett. Yeah. All that being said, I think we should just jump right into the songs. Anyone object?
All I want to say as a cue up is that I just want to say my takeaway from this movie, as it is as a movie divorced from the stage show, is so what the fuck.
That's actually a pretty good transition into the song that I wrote to add to this movie. I picture this as a closing credits number, if I'm being honest, but it also is a cameo. The closing credit, we didn't talk about it, but the closing credits of this movie have covers of the songs from the musical by like Sam Smith, Carrie Underwood, and some other people. So I wrote this song because honestly, what this feels like to me, like the whole time, like the feeling that I left this movie with is, this sounds like something I would hear about on a true crime podcast. And that was sort of my starting point for this song. So I think with that, I'm just going to go right into it, and we'll come back after it and talk about it and get out. Here we go.
True crime.
Hello, I'm Ira Glass, and welcome into NPR. Today, a story worse than any I've ever heard before. This sleepy Georgia town was rocked by the actions of a single nerd. Act 1 of our show today, the world's biggest turd. The bile will rise to your throat as I relay what he did. He had no friends, this twerp, so he used a dead kid. He counterfeited correspondence and sought sex from the stiff's sister. Frankly, folks, this whole deal's an epistolary pisser. He's a complete shit to his mother while she works saving lives. Instead, he finds a new fake mom and munches on her pie. He fabricates this friendship to form a foster family, but he makes out with his new sibling like he's Angelina Jolie. I can't control myself. I can't keep my feelings on the shelf. I grant him no clemency. Fuck journalistic integrity. It isn't altruistic, he just did it for the clout. If this is American life, I'm begging you, count me out. Sorry about that, folks. This guy gets my wheels greased. Let's hear from Zoe Murphy. She's the sister of the deceased.
He saw his moment. He seized it. Still can't believe it. P.S. He smelled like Cheez-Its. He needs a dentist, an orthopedic surgeon, psychologist, and a priest. He just took a bad situation and made it even more shitty. He can take his gift for making shit up to classes at Second City.
Any more details, and fair warning, I might hang up if this makes me sick.
Well, you may have guessed this, but he had a skinny little pencil.
Click. His whole life's an insult. Hope they try him as an adult. I don't have pity. He just did it for the titty. He's a blunder of God. Don't buy his facade. This schizoid is not a Boy Scout. If this is American life, I'm begging you, count me out. Today's show is made possible by... Fuck it. I quit. There it is, American Life, the new single. It's going to win the Best Original Song Oscar when they remake the movie.
Whoa.
Ira Glass has agreed to play himself.
Yeah. He did it in Mike Birbiglia stuff, so I don't know why he wouldn't do it here. Thanks to the serial theme for letting me copy it. And then, but certainly when I started writing it, I did not know that it was going to be like a later day Kanye song. I just knew that he had to lose his mind when the chorus came in, because there was the only place for him to go from it. But it was very therapeutic for me to write that song about all my feelings about the events of this movie. Oh, hey, maybe this is as good a time as ever to mention that all the songs that we do here on Musical, the Movie, the Podcast are available only in one place, and that is our Patreon, patreon.com/dumbfun, which is also the home for Fanny Falls Demon Hunter, the ongoing podcast right now. It's going to be a mini-series, 13 episodes. It's a fake rewatch show where two actors who were in a show in the 90s play clips from it, talk about what it was like to be on it, but the show never happened. It's a fake show. Check that out, as well as 30 characters where me and Joe Fernandez and Matt Riggs have on people. Beckett, you're a friend of that show.
I am, yeah.
One of our favorite episodes, frankly, is your episode. And so people should go back and listen to that. And then check out our Patreon, give us some money. I mean, God damn it, Steph's in nursing school over here. She's trying to work her way through nursing school while she's, working in academia as well. We need a little help. So go over to that Patreon and sign up for that. Carrie, is there anything that you'd like to plug or anything?
No, but I will say, support arts in schools. Our Ben Platts have to start somewhere. So support arts in schools, support teachers. They need all the support they can get right now.
And they have to end somewhere too. And that was the
start somewhere. Which is in their daddy's mansion, in the recording studio that they built for him, with some classes by Barbara Streisand's vocal teacher.
Beckett, what about you? You got something coming up you want to plug?
No, follow me on socials if you can at Beckett Kenny, jazz.
Yes. Your name is Beckett. Your socials are Bucket.
Yep.
Steph?
I think today I would like to encourage everyone to be kind to the servers and just any public facing service staff. They really take a lot, and a lot of them are trying to be Ben Platt, and be nice to them.
There you go. Also, if you're in the Chicagoland area, come to Character Assassination the first Sunday of every month at Laugh Factory. Beckett's usually on that show. We're going to be doing the Roast of Vampires on October 2nd. Beckett, look for a message from me soon.
Okay.
Carrie, Beckett, thank you both for being here. I hope, Carrie, you don't feel like we ganged up on you.
No, not at all. Trust me, I'm used to fighting off like the wonderful things about Shakespeare to 14-year-olds, so I think I can handle Dear Evan Hansen.
I thought you were going to say, I can handle you assholes talking about Dear Evan Hansen. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Join us in 2 weeks. We'll be back on October 2nd, starting off our spooky musical October with Stephen Sondheim. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Stephen comes to the podcast.
That's right. Finally, our first Sondheim musical and our first Tim Burton.
Are you guys going to talk about Sondheim's sex dungeon?
We are now.
Okay, well, that's important. Supposedly, okay, I got to tell the story. I know you're trying to.
Please.
I want to hear
There's a teaser for our next episode.
Angela Lansbury was at a party at Sondheim's house, and she walked in on some tied up twink in his bedroom, and then she went and she's like, I can't do an Angela Lansbury impression. Why did you okay. She's like, well, why did you type that perfectly nice boy? And then he was like, he asked for it. Anyway,
I think that's actually, we see that scene in Tick, Tick, Boom. That's how he meets Jonathan Larson.
Mm-hmm. It actually was Jonathan Larson.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll be back with Sweeney Todd in 2 weeks. Thank you, Becca. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Steph, as always. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
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 Musical the Movie, the podcast. Musical the Movie, the podcast. Musical the Movie, the podcast with Andy and Steph. Fun, dumb.